First up for you right now at 5 tonight, police following all leads in the Camden Siegel homicide case. He was only 17 when he was shot in downtown Hartford Sunday morning.
Now his family says he was not the intended target and was simply caught in the crossfire. Your reporter Dylan Fearon live in West Hartford tonight with the latest on the investigation and why the state is now getting involved. Dylan.
Well, Mark, Aaron, Camden's funeral is tomorrow morning here at the Emmanuel Synagogue over in West Hartford. His family just too heartbroken to speak to us on camera tonight, but tell us Camden had the sweetest soul. Camden Siegel was shot near The Lady, a popular bar and nightclub on Hartford's and Uccello Street downtown. Tonight we're learning the state's Department of Consumer Protection is investigating The Lady after Sunday's shooting. Police haven't confirmed if 17-year-old Camden was inside the club beforehand or if alcohol was sold to minors, but the state says its Liquor Control Board is helping Hartford police and the city with the investigation, looking into all potential violations. The state says it has a separate investigation into The Lady after receiving a complaint the club was selling alcohol to minors. As police continue following up on every lead, we heard from the owner of The Lady, who tells us he reviewed hours of surveillance video from last weekend and is fairly certain Camden wasn't inside. The current owner of The Lady took over in April of 2024. He says he wants the focus to be on finding whoever killed Camden. He says he's not aware of the state investigations. Meanwhile, Camden's family calls him the sweetest soul who moved through life with kindness and intention, adding his friendships were built on loyalty, trust, and countless unforgettable memories. And Camden was set to graduate from Hall High School in a few months, Mark and Aaron. His funeral services begin here at 11 o'clock tomorrow morning. I'm your reporter live in West Hartford tonight, Dylan Fearon, Channel 3 Eyewitness News.
Dylan.